All right, so now we are going to create the actual composable, the actual screen where this destination is going to represent. So like I said, we have everything set up, but not really, because the way things are right now, we have everything in main. So we're going to separate the concerns here. What this means is that inside of our screens, here I'm going to create yet another package. Okay, the first package here is going to be home. This is another way of creating this. And inside of home, I'm going to create another file, call this home screen as such. Okay, what do we want to happen here? I'm going to say at composable, and this is going to be function home screen. Now, here's another important thing to remember. What are we going to do here? We're actually going to pass a nav controller type, because the nav controller, remember, will allow us to say nav controller.navigate, and we can go to whatever we want to go. So we always want to pass a nav controller in this home screen. Okay, now that means we go back to our movie navigation. I can say home screen like this. Let's go ahead and import. Let's go ahead and import this second one, the function. Okay, like this, and voila. We said that this expects a nav controller. We're going to pass a nav controller. Where do we get our nav controller? Well, we've created it already, and voila, we're passing it there. What I'm going to do, let's go to home, and I'm going to remove this scaffold content here. So all of this, let's cut all of that and go to home and pass it all there. Gonna have problems, no problems. And let's take this as well, all of this main content, and we're gonna add at the bottom because it's its own function, so we need to put at the bottom there. For our content here, I'm actually going to do the following. Let's go ahead and just call our main content. Also, let's pass the nav controller like such, which means we have to pass nav controller type like this. It will make more sense once we actually use nav controller. Now, where is this called? Well, remember that this is actually called inside of a movie navigation, which is really good because we are going to use movie navigation, because that is what it's going to govern the entire application, right? It has all the navigation, and it will know exactly what is the first item or what is the first screen that it needs to be shown. So in our main activity, now things have changed, correct? Yes, they have changed. That means here I'm going to still pass the content what we had before, right? Because this is just this my app is being called here. But inside of my app here, I'm going to pass now movie navigation, because again, movie navigation, click like this, it has all the information it needs to know where to go. Which in this case, the first thing that's going to happen, because it is indeed the start destination, we have to have a start destination. It's going to be the home screen. We pass the composable. The actual composable is this, which is what we have extracted and put it here. It's because at the bottom here, we are still not doing what we need to do, which means we have to pass our navigation, movie navigation. Right? We're not using it, but it's okay to pass it there. All right, so we should be good. Okay, let's go ahead and do a quick, let's close this down. Another quick recap here. So we created a home screen. All we did here was just remove some of the code from our home screen, our main activity that is, because now we know that in our movie navigation, we have this nav controller. We created this movie navigation function composable, and we have the nav host. This is where we're going to host all of our destinations, our composables, our screens. And we have to start with a destination. Where do we start, right? Well, we start at home screen, and we pass a nav controller along. Because from here, home screen, we may need to click a button or click each one of those lists, each one of those movies, so we can be taken somewhere else to a different destination. Does that make sense? And so in our main activity now, all we have to do in our main set content here, we no longer have to pass directly home. We pass the movie navigation because it has all the navigation. It knows all of the nodes, all of the composables that we put inside here. We may put as many as we want, because remember, this is just a nav host, and we pass it all inside there. We're building, again, we're building this nav graph. In this graph right now, we only have one item, which is this home screen inside of nav host, which is what we have there. And we have a nav controller, which is out there, and we're passing along. Very nice. Now, let's go ahead and run and see how this works. And voila, you can see everything is working as if nothing ever happened, right? We have our main screen, our home screen, and we still have everything like this. Very good indeed. So now that we understand that our navigation is working, this is really good. We want to be able next we want to be able to, when we click this item, for instance, to go to a details page. Let's see how that would work. Well, it's very simple now because, as I said, all we have to do now, let's get rid of these. All we have to do is go back to our movie navigation and create another composable inside of our nav host, because this is where we put all of our nodes, all of our composable, all of our screens. So at the end of this composable, the home composable, this is indeed the home composable, as you can see, I can go ahead and say another composable like this, passing the route. You see, movie screens, way easier. I'm going to go to details at this point, the name, and then I'm going to do what? Well, I'm going to say details, screen, and I'm going to do the same thing, nav controller, passing the nav controller. Now, it's going to want to get the details screen from navigation. That's not what we want. We want to create another screen here. So I'm going to create another package. This is going to be details, like this, which means now inside of details, I can add another file, just like what we did. See, now it's simple because we just repeat the process. So this is going to be details screen. I'm going to make it composable. Fun details screen. And I'm going to pass nav controller if we want to. And for now, I'm just going to say text, just to show you, details screen. All right, so go back here. Let's go ahead and import. We want a detail screen function, and voila. So now if we go to our, let's go back to our home. Looks like I put this in the wrong place. This has to go. Okay, let's restructure this. Looks like this home is not working. Let's create another package there. Let's say homes just to differentiate. This should be outside. Let's refactor that. I think he didn't. Just restructuring things here. Home screen. Okay, now it's all working, so I don't need this. Let's delete that. Not sure why that didn't work, but that's fine. Okay, so we have details, folder, or package, and we have home. So inside of our home screen, let's go back to here. We remember that in our main content, we are passing the nav controller. The reason why we're passing nav controller, because we want to be able to click and go somewhere. So right now, because we have our nav controller, look how easy this is. Inside of our movie row, we're passing that movie, and we're just saying log D to see that movie, right? That's fine. But now look what we can do. I can say nav controller dot navigate. I have a lot of methods here. Navigate. What we want the one that says route. It's very important, the route one, because if you get the wrong one, you're going to have some errors. So make sure you get to the route like this. And where we want to go? Well, for route, I'm going to pass a string, but I know I can just go and say movies. Say movies screens. I'm going to get dot. I want to go to details. That name to get the actual value of our enum. And that's it. Look how easy this is. All we had to do was pass that nav controller, because remember, the nav controller controls, tells what to do. That's why we say nav controller dot navigate. Do something. What is it we're going to do? I'm going to navigate where? To this route here. And how do I know this is the correct one? Because it's just a string that we added in our main screen, or movie screen, I should say, that enum. So it knows exactly it's here, right? So it knows exactly where to go, the route. Now, if I run this again, if I click any of this, I go to detail screen. Let's go back. And you can see it's working. We have navigation working, guys. Just to do a quick recap here. So what we did the same thing as we did before, right? We created, in this case, our detail screen. Doesn't have much, and we pass it with nav controller. We're not using it, but that's fine. We're just passing it because we may, who knows, we may also want to use nav controller later. We never know. So we just pass nav controller. We have access to it, and that's fine. But most importantly, what we had to do in our movie navigation here, in our nav host, right? Because this is where we create the actual graph. In fact, you can see it says this nav graph builder. So we're building our graph here. Visually, we're building all those pieces, all of those nodes of our tree. In our case here, the first one is our movie screen, and we made sure that the start destination is going to be it. In this case, movie screen, home, like that. But still, we have to have that composable to say, where is it, that movie screen? Well, the composable is home screen. And we pass that nav controller that we created at the top here. And we instantiate it through our nav host. And we know that we want to go to details. We have to create that composable. In this case, detail screen, pass the nav controller again because we just want to. And most importantly, now we have that route, okay, to say this is where, when we click, we can just invoke nav controller.navigate to this place, and then we're done. And that's exactly what we've done here. Nav controller.navigate, movie screen, details, name. The navigation component and the nav controller, nav host, and nav graph. So keep this diagram in mind as you navigate through, okay? Make sure to understand that a navigation component contains a nav controller, nav host, and nav graph. Nav graph, just think of a bunch of composables that are connected. It's a graph. Nav host, well, it's hosting all of those composable, all of those screens. Nav controller, it controls all of this. It says, okay, it says nav controller dot navigate to X composable. So there are more things that we're going to do, of course, to learn more about navigation, especially being able to click and go to detail screen. But instead of just seeing detail screen, we want to be able to pass along some information, because that makes sense. Detail screen, we want to see details of whatever we tapped here. And that's what we're going to be looking at in the next videos.